Good afternoon. Welcome, welcome. Thank you all for being here with us online today and catching up with us. If you're at 1 o'clock on Tuesday, you're with us right now. Otherwise, you're catching us later on. And you notice Rebecca's not here today. Instead, we have a very worthy person sitting next. The shyest lady on the staff, I think.
Well, I've managed to avoid this chair for about 3 months now.
That's exactly right. It's Miss Lisa Wilson. Tell us, what do you do here?
Well, I am. My title is.
It's kind of morphing around. And
it is. It's a little bit different every day. I am administrative assistant is what my title is, but I do a lot of things with helping with service prep. I do some graphics. I was the designer on our magazine that we did this winter,
which I may I say was very well done.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to do that, and we are planning to do another one that's going to be out in January. So, folks will have to watch that so they can keep up with what's going on in the parish.
What was your reason for coming here? Now you were before you were working at Island Packet.
Right. So I moved to the Low Country about 10 years ago to work at the Island Packet.
Where were you?
I was in Mississippi. I grew up in Louisiana, went to college there, and then after college moved to Mississippi to work for a newspaper.
Now, in Louisiana, that's a big Catholic country. Were you?
It is. The town I grew up in was majority Catholic. There were times in my elementary years where, I might have been the only Baptist child in the class, or there might have been just one or two of us.
Well, the Catholics are serious down there, but I hear the Baptists are seriously serious. Was yours one of the snake handling Baptists? Because they got some of that down there in the bayou.
Not that crazy. But, I grew up in a pretty strict home. We were in church, twice on Sundays, and Sunday school and training union, and then prayer meeting on Wednesday night, and sang in the choir and participated in youth groups and Bible school.
Did you have brothers and sisters?
I've got two older sisters. One lives in Louisiana in the hometown where we grew up, and the other lives in Texas.
So you were the baby in the family?
Yes, there's a big gap. My sisters are close together. They were 12 and 13 when I was born.
So you were spoiled rotten?
I think probably. They would say yes.
I think probably.
I think they say that I grew up with different parents than they did, because my parents had mellowed out a little bit.
When you were in college, were you aspiring to be working in a church, or what?
No, I really never thought I would work in a church. I wanted to be a journalist from my very first memories. My family has a little reel-to-reel tape of me when I was 5 doing a pretend newscast.
Seriously?
And so I always wanted to be a journalist and a writer and a reporter, and went to college for that, and immediately started working as a journalist.
Well, now, how did you get from Mississippi? You said it was Louisiana, then Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
Then why?
So I had an editor I worked with in Mississippi who moved here to edit the Island Packet, and so he had a job opening, thought I would be a good fit for it, and it didn't take too much persuasion to get us to move to the beach from Mississippi. So we decided to make a fresh start here.
Now, how long ago was that?
That was about 10 years ago.
Has it been a good move? Has it been what you thought it would be?
Oh, it has been amazing. We have just loved living here and really don't see ourselves living anywhere else.
How about your other sisters? Do they come and visit and say, oh gosh, I wish I lived here?
They haven't been much. What we do is once a year we have a sisters trip, and we meet halfway. Usually that's Birmingham. And we spend a week together in a house and just have some good sister time.
And go to an Alabama football game?
No.
No.
No football.
No.
We do thrifting and antique malls, and we eat really well while we're there.
Eat out, or you cook?
We eat out usually. That's coming up in a couple weeks. I'm looking forward to it.
Good for you. Well, now, at the Packet, what did you do?
So when I first started working at the Packet, I was news editor. And so I was in charge of a team of 6 or 7 folks, and we would edit and do page design, write headlines and captions, really put the paper we were the last people to touch the paper before it went to press. And then the last 5 years or so, I was a reporter, and I covered breaking news. I covered a lot of restaurant openings and retail closings and things like that.
Has that whole reporting from when you came here 10 years ago, is reporting then different than reporting now?
Well, I wouldn't say the actual reporting is, because those are basics. You know, you ask people questions, you get answers, and you want to give people information they need. But what did change is that everything sped up. So, you know, we were just having to move so much faster to get people information online. And
So you had the print part, but you also had the online part.
Right, right.
Which was more popular with people?
I think it just depends on the generation. You know, older folks.
Careful.
They like a newspaper. That's what they grew up with. That's their comfort. You know, they like doing the puzzles in pencil. And younger people want to hit just the highlights of the news online and carry on with the next thing.
Well, did you see that play out in the circulation of the newspaper?
Yes, I think
did it go down over the years?
It has. I mean, and that's not just the Island Packet. That's industry-wide. Everywhere, every newspaper is dealing with circulation issues.
So are they making up for it? The tangible newspaper and the online, is the total about the same?
No, I don't think so. And I think it's different because advertising has changed as well. And so that's all, it's kind of a complicated mix of where your money's coming in, you know, advertising, subscriptions, and the whole industry is different now than it was. And I think some businesses are probably doing it better than others.
That's probably true.
Yeah, you know.
So a Baptist girl ended up in an Anglican world. It's kind of like whiplash in there.
It's a little different.
How did that happen?
Well, when we first moved here, I was very interested in the Church of the Cross's history. And I thought, well, what better way to see the church is to go to a service and sit through a service. And so I came on a Sunday morning at the 10 o'clock service and I didn't know anything about the liturgy. I didn't know what was going to happen.
Was that scary to you?
Relief and peace. And I said, this is where I need to be.
What you think that was about?
I think
that... Because you weren't expecting that reaction.
No, I wasn't. I think that God was just speaking to me. And he told me that you know, this is the place I was looking for. To find a church home, a place where I could worship, and the Church of the Cross has been that and more for me. And so I was very glad to be able to come to work here.
So how did that come about?
Well, I saw an ad a while back for someone who was, I think y'all were advertising for someone to do graphics, but it was not a full-time job. It was a part-time position, and that wasn't going to work for my family to have a part-time job. And so earlier this year, I saw the administrative assistant position advertised, and it was a full-time job. And my heart started racing, and I started seeing the things that were in the listing of, you know, required, and I said, well, I could do that. I could do that. I could do that. I'd like to do that. And so I said, I've got to apply for this job. And so I did. Now,
were you already volunteering at God's Goods then?
Yes, I've been volunteering at God's Goods about 6 years. So I actually did that long before. And then I also was an American Heritage Girls leader here when my daughter was younger.
You really were integrated into the church family before you ever responded to the job.
Yes. And I loved being part of that. And so I saw this really as a way to just even be more involved, but also use the experience I've got as a designer and an editor here at the church.
When you read a job description, you know, and you kind of get an idea of what this is going to be about, and now you're here 3 months. Are the two the same?
You know, largely. Largely, well, a lot of it is, and I think that as y'all see what my skills are, things have changed. Y'all have given me maybe a few extra things that you saw that I was good at doing, but for the most part, I think it has been.
What surprises?
Oh, gosh. I guess what surprises? That's kind of a hard question.
I mean, because you have in mind, you've got a sense of the congregation, and you have in mind what it might be to work here. You couldn't have the picture perfect. There had to be
No.
some things that really caught you.
Right.
Whoa, this is
Well-
way different, way more, way less, whatever.
One of the things.
Because you've got a job experience that you're comparing against too, a working setting and all the rest of that.
One thing that has surprised me is how many people in the congregation recognize me. Either they've called and talked to me or they've seen me. And so now they're starting to, so I was part of the congregation and I knew a lot of people, but now I know so many more people who recognize me. And also, one of the things that I think is very different about working at the church is the people here are just so grateful and welcoming.
Are you talking about the staff or the congregation?
Really both, but especially the staff. It really feels like a team, like we have a strong common goal that everyone is really on board with. And that feels really good to be part of the team we're all headed in the same direction.
Amen. So what does your family think about you being here?
I think everybody is really happy. First of all, my life has gotten a lot less stressful because when you're a journalist, there's so much pressure to be fast and to be accurate and to get news to people who need to know it right now. So you have that pressure of you've got to handle that responsibility. And I think that not having that day-to-day deadline has been really good for my stress level, and then that sort of spilled over onto my family.
You're kind of mellow, aren't you?
I'm a little bit, yeah.
That's your preference.
Right. I'm a little bit less on edge, I would say, when I get home at the end of my shift.
So that has to bless your people at home.
I hope it does, yeah.
So you're cooking any at home?
A little bit. My son is learning to cook some things too. So that's been fun to get in the kitchen with him and teach him how to cook the family recipes and that kind of thing.
Family
Do you
recipes?
cook?
No, I don't. No, but Becky's a great cook.
Well, I know that. I think I've had a meal of hers.
What's your family recipes? What are you and your boy working with on family recipes?
Well,
Cajun stuff?
Some of it is Cajun. I make a pretty decent gumbo. But a lot of it, too, is just standard things. Just, things like macaroni and cheese and spaghetti and meatballs. And it's not fancy things, but it's just, it's just good food that you can enjoy with your family. And that's the most important thing, I think. I'm not a gourmet cook.
Survival food.
Well.
Or maybe a notch above that.
Maybe a notch above that.
Does your daughter cook?
Not really. Well, she cooks. She will cook things in the air fryer or heat up things for herself to eat when she's not interested in what the rest of us are eating.
Becky doesn't use an air fryer. Does that work good for you?
It does, yeah. We were just saying this week at home that we have got our money's worth out of ours because it'll do, a small portion without heating up the whole oven if we want to have some French fries or something like that.
So what's ahead for you? You said you're getting more things added on, and your job's kind of morphing around a little bit.
A little bit. I'm going to be doing more with the newsletter that comes out on Thursdays, and I will be doing, like I said, the magazine coming out at the end of the year, and I think more graphic design work for various ministries in the church.
Now you are also in this process of converting the last of the stuff that we have on Microsoft Word and stuff. You're converting that into what?
Right.
Something.
So we're using InDesign is a program that we're using to all of the bulletins. We don't do a bulletin anymore for Sunday services, but if there is a funeral or confirmation or baptism, we do a bulletin. And so all of those were in an old computer program that really didn't work very well. And so we're in the process of updating all of those. And they're not changing dramatically because the words are still the same. we're just cleaning them up a little bit and making them easier to work with when we need to.
And you're doing away with that second set of everything's on Mac now, right? On Apple
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Instead of we were trying to do things on both
I
worlds.
think so, probably, yeah. I think most everything we're moving. We still do some things in Microsoft Word, but
Less and less.
yeah, I think so.
Less and less. So how about you can move into graphics? Mm-hmm. Have you got your eye on anything that you would like to be doing that we're not doing now? Have you been here long enough to see, God, there's really some room to do some exciting things in this or this or this?
Well, I suggested some things to Rebecca. We actually talked about that last week. And I thought we should have you more on video recording some of your stories that we would maybe, I know for confirmation, for example, the first night you talk about the historic service, and it's very difficult to record there. So we don't have that on recording. But if you were here talking about it, and then we showed video of the historic campus, that would be nice to have in our archive so people could see that.
Yeah.
So I have suggested that. That's a big project, though. That's going to take a while to do.
Yeah. Are you seeing the whole thing of building a video archive? Mm-hmm. Are you seeing that as being something that would be an area you'd like to move into?
Well,
that would be a gradual.
Yeah.
It's hard to go back where you can't go back and reclaim stuff, but somewhere you got to start gradually building it.
I think what I'm coming at from that point of it is not so much that I'm interested in the video, is I'm interested in the history and preserving the history. And I'm sure that there are people in our parish and you who know stories that a lot of us have never heard about the parish and its history. And I know we do have a historical committee that does a really good job of keeping up with that. But just making that history available to more people, I think is exciting.
Where's the interest in history coming from?
I think that,
Because you've mentioned that several times. Mm-hmm. You didn't study that in college, did you?
No, I didn't. Maybe I wish I might have a little bit. I think it's just growing up in the Cajun culture. You're always thinking about your family traditions, and being away from those, you see more how special those are, having those traditions. And so it's given me an interest in preserving my own history and the history of the things that I care about.
Did your family have some traditions that you're preserving?
Gosh. Well, since I was the youngest and my grandparents and parents were older, my children did not really have a chance to develop those kinds of traditions with their parents and, their grandparents and great-grandparents. And so I think things like, things we eat for Christmas have become our traditions, or things we eat for Thanksgiving. Just those little things that you do.
One of the things that I think, there's 700 children that cross over there. Most of those children, their grandparents are way away. Mm-hmm. And they don't have that opportunity, just like yours might have not had, your children might not have had the opportunity because of age or whatever, or distance. But so many of these children, they don't have that sit around the table or visit on the weekends with grandparents. And so they just don't have that. And so a lot of those family anecdotes are being lost. They're just not there.
We used to, so my parents, both of their sets of parents and all of their siblings all lived in the same town that I grew up in. And so when I was a child, after church on Sunday, we would go to my grandmother's house, and she would always have biscuits and coffee for the adults. And, they would sit around the dining room table and just catch up and talk about their week and what was coming on the week and make jokes and tell stories.
Yeah.
And so, we don't have that really anymore.
That was the common scenario for a family, was multiple generations. Like in Becky's situation, we got married, we built a house on the farm, and our parents were across the field that way, and our sister and family, grandparents were over here. And there was a cemetery right down there, Terza Presbyterian Church, and generations of family. And you were born, and you lived, and you died in the same geographic area.
Yeah, that's the town I
And
grew up
that's
in.
where family was. There was a shared set of neighbors and relatives and memories and dreams and all of that. You know?
And then, I mean, it was a different time, but the kids just roamed around. We would roam around all day Saturday, playing outside, and everybody watched everybody else. If you were an adult and if I was seen doing something wrong, it would get back to my mom and dad, or if I needed help, I could just knock on a door because I knew so many people.
That's right. There was a shared set of caring and a shared set of values that this is what it means to grow up in this area. This is who we are, and who we are is in part defined by how we behave, and how we behave is informed by what we believe.
But Bluffton really is at its heart, I think, a small town too. It's interesting how I run into people often, just randomly at the post office or the grocery store. People I know from God's Goods, people I know from the congregation. So it does have some of that same small town feeling that we still like.
Now, being a relatively shy person, does that bother you that people recognize you out in the community and all that?
Not really. I'm fine one-on-one, and I'm actually kind of fine with this one-on-one because I'm not thinking about...
I'm actually kind of fine. I'm going crazy inside, but I'm kind of fine.
But I'm not thinking about everybody who might watch this otherwise. But if there were people sitting out in the congregation right now, I would be a lot more nervous. I'm not used to being the one answering questions as much as asking questions.
Oh, that's okay. Well, what do you want to ask me? If that'll make you more comfortable.
What were you like in high school?
I think probably I went to military schools.
Okay.
I aspired to be in the military. My father was a career Navy guy. Studious. That was one of the things that in my family was really important. My father had been the first person in his family to go to college. He had 4 sisters, and they all worked to help him get through, and he worked and all that kind of stuff. But so that idea that he knew education could open doors, and it was important that I get good grades so I could go to a good college. Though he didn't push it on me, I really wanted to be a naval person. He was a Navy officer. I wanted to be that. So I had in mind from the outset that I wanted to get a Navy scholarship and all of that. And so it's more competitive to get an NROTC scholarship than it is to go to one of the academies because more people want to do it. So I had to work hard at that and ended up being blessed. God gave me a good mind. But I would say people would say that I was studious for sure. Competitive. I think though it was a military school, everybody was discipline was the name of the game. I think I was maybe a bit more self-disciplined than some of my classmates were.
And did you serve in the Navy?
No. I went to college on a Navy scholarship, and then between my junior and senior years developed a peptic ulcer. And the Navy sent me to Fort Jackson to get that squared away. And they said, we can't run the risk of putting you on a ship because if it comes up, there's nothing we can do. And those things do recur. But by God's grace, it never did come back again. But they paid for my last year and reclassified me. This was the Vietnam War. I graduated from college in 1965. The Vietnam War was raging then. And anybody that was, as soon as you graduated, you were in the fleet or if you're in the air. My big brother in fraternity had been killed in Vietnam. He was an airplane fighter pilot. But that's what you did. That was just part of your. Because see, most of the parents, most of the fathers of the folks who were in the ROTC program had fought in World War II. So I mean, there was kind of this family heritage kind of, and a world of the mothers had worked during World War II in defense industries and stuff like that. not many had been in the military, but they had worked in defense industries. So it was a time of expectations, of patriotism, but it was, when I was in college, there was this clash of cultures, because if you think in I graduated in 65, so in 61, 62, 63, 64 is when the hippie movement was coming in, and the women's lib stuff, and the birth control pills, and Vietnam, anti-establishment, all of that kind of stuff was going on. And so it was to be patriotic, to be geared toward military at a time when your people are walking around with signs and all this kind of stuff, it took a lot of discipline. You might say about a bit of courage or something like that. It was very strange.
Now,
Civil rights movement was real big, was just coming in then.
When your plans changed, did you have to deal with a lot of disappointment?
Yeah, personally. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. That'd be the first big disappointment of my life. But, I'm not one that dwells on disappointments. Mm-hmm. Life is full of things that don't go your way. I was not a person of faith then, but I didn't feel like my life was over with and there was nothing else I could do. Mm-hmm. And by God's grace, other doors opened. I had a big independent school background, and I loved all that, so I just shifted gears a little bit, and then questioned that one time. And I was a math major, and became a systems engineer with IBM for 2.5 years. But I miss people. So I just shifted gears and, suck it up and go. And that's one of those things with disappointment. Everybody's got disappointments. Now you can be overwhelmed by that, or you can transcend that, and make, what is God saying here? What other, this door is closed? What other ones are opening up? What is it about? And I think that's one of the things that very often today people hit up against a barrier, an obstacle of some kind or another, and they just get this poor, pitiful me kind of thing, and they just dissolve into a puddle. Mm-hmm. And it generate depression and then hopelessness, and that's more common, I think, than triumphing over setbacks and using the setbacks as being hurdles, not to struggle to get over with, but hurdles to get you to jump higher, raise your standards, your goals, whatever you want to say with that. But yeah, that was a struggle, but very short.
And then later you decided to enter the priesthood. What made you decide to do that?
I suspect Billy Graham is the one that opened my eyes to faith. And then I was headmaster of a Christian school and wanted to serve and felt like I belonged in ministry. And talked to several bishops, and no, they didn't think. They thought I had a powerful ministry where I was, need to stay there, and I'm glad they said no, because I wasn't mature enough for that. People come to you with difficulties they're having. You got to have some sense of compassion and a bit of experience to be able to relate to it, so you can speak meaningfully into situations. And when you're young, you just don't have that. Mm-hmm. You just don't. And you can't fake through that, and regurgitating something out of a book is no help.
People will see that as not sincere.
Oh yeah, they see right through it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Were you? Did you know about the Church at the Cross when you first moved here, or was that moving here when you learned about it?
We lived in the middle part of the state, and no, I didn't know anything about Church of the Cross. And then when we worked, I became a priest with the idea of staying in the school and working with little churches that couldn't afford to have anybody.
Okay.
And I did that for almost 3 years. But then it became clear that I needed to be in full-time ministry. There were several churches with openings, and Church of the Cross was one of them. And interestingly, the Church of the Cross was the one church in the diocese that other clergy said, don't go there.
Really?
Because the church you see now has been all restored. It wasn't that way when we came. When we came, Bluffton was 1 square mile. This is 1996. So
Yeah.
that's before you were born, probably, wasn't it?
No, not before I was born.
Close.
I was getting married in 1996.
Were you really?
1997. Yes.
Well, gosh, you're well preserved. Good job. Good job. Maybelline.
Mom
We got to
and
thank
Dad.
Mama Maybelline or somebody, huh?
I guess Mom and Dad, thanks.
Mom and Dad. Yeah, you're very well preserved. But, Bluffton was a teeny place. And
And the church was small, the congregation was small.
oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And the roads around the church were dirt. In Bluffton, you had nickel pumpers, and you had Squat and Gobble, and you had Scott's Piggly Wiggly. And that was the show. That was
Yeah.
it. 1 square mile. Bluffton didn't have a high school. You had an elementary school, but the children all went to Hilton Head for high school. But people's lives were oriented towards Savannah. And there weren't that many people to start out with. But medical care, anything like that, you went to Savannah. Any serious shopping, you went to Savannah.
Boy, things have changed, haven't they?
Sun City had started in 1995. It was little. I mean, it really was little. And the first general manager of Sun City was also the priest at First Baptist Church in Bluffton, which is now Cornerstone.
know that.
Dennis Wilkins, really nice guy. Really nice guy, yeah. But yeah, he was doing both of them.
Interesting.
Yeah. But things have changed.
Things have changed.
This was all a pine forest out here. This whole road was.
We have a photo at the parish hall, and it's taken in front of the school, and you can see Buckwalter, and it's just trees. It looks like a little 2-lane road and trees.
That's right. That's what it was. That's what it was. Yeah. And International Paper owned most of the land in this whole Jasper County, Southern Beaufort, and Northern Beaufort County for the paper mill in Savannah. And we have a lady join the church a few months ago who is a chemical engineer, and she works at the paper plant. And so I asked her, I said, how much chemistry you do with the paper, making papers? She said, oh, we don't make any paper there.
Oh, really?
I said, what? She said, no, we don't make any paper
They just process the supplies?
They make, it's all chemistry. They use everything in the pine tree. They generate the sap and all. They power their whole plant over there is powered from the
Wow.
stuff from pine trees. They sell electricity to Savannah.
Wow, that's interesting.
Everything is used. The bulk of what they do is the pine tree fibers, when you're treated with chemicals, are much like cotton fibers. And they process all that stuff into pellets and stuff. She said virtually everything we produce goes to China.
Really?
China makes clothes out of it and sells it back to the United States.
Wow.
Chemistry. No, but we don't make paper there. She said, no, we have plants that make paper, and
Yeah.
that's all they do. But she said that like there are plants that make paper for copy machines, and that's all they make.
Yeah.
Then there's specialty paper and toilet paper, all kind of stuff like that. But it's not the idea of we're making all kind of paper here.
That's interesting.
We don't even make paper. I was very surprised. So that whole industry is changing, and well, just like you're talking about the newspapers change, churches change too.
Yeah, that's true.
The idea of no bulletins, that's. But what we're doing, I think, is more effective, and it blesses more people than the bulletins do.
And
for
that
sure.
took so much time. My understanding is
golly
it took a lot of time, and it took money. And that time and money can be better used to do things that are going to make a big difference in the community.
Amen. And paper is not cheap.
That's true. That's true.
It is not cheap.
Right.
But we're very, 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 very fortunate, and we're fortunate to have you.
Thank you so much.
And I'm anxious to see what your next morph is going to be.
Stay tuned.
That's one of those things that I think you can really be looking forward to, is that every day is different because you're working with people. There are some similarities, and then the functions, how the functions are the same, but they're different, And then the strategies for accomplishing what you need to accomplish with people, those are always changing.
Oh, yeah.
And as technology opens more and more doors, there's more and more things we can be doing. Mm-hmm. So what announcements do we need to make today?
Let's see. We have prayer and teaching tomorrow night at right here.
Evening prayer, 6:15. Teaching at 7. Working on the series of teachings on miracles. And Nathan teaches tomorrow night. And the miracle he's working with is the man lowered through the roof.
Mm-hmm. It'll be
with his
interesting.
buddies.
And you can watch that streaming, or you can come and see it in person.
7 to 8, in person and online. And then, of course, if you can't miss it, if you can't be here or you can't watch it online, it's posted there so you can see it later on.
Yes, and if you missed the last ones, you can catch up on those too.
Mm-hmm. Last confirmation class is coming up on Sunday evening.
That's exciting.
It is exciting. And then the bishop will be here Wednesday week for confirmation services. So we're looking forward to all that. Have a great group of people in that, and a big group of people in the confirmation class. So that's really exciting. What else?
Let's see. I know the food bank is really in need of paper bags right now. God's Goods also needs paper bags.
But they don't want people just to bring bags, do they?
Well, it would be nice if they put something in them, huh? Let's do that.
That's what I was thinking. They need
You're
bags.
going to bring a bag, put some soup and some pasta sauce. And
Have you ever worked at the food bank?
I haven't worked at the food bank, but I have been around it because I've worked at God's Goods.
Yeah.
It is a well-oiled machine, I will say.
And that number is inching toward 450 a week.
It is, and with people probably losing things in their refrigerators and freezers this week, with the storm being out of power, I think that need coming up this week is going to be even greater.
Yeah. Was everything okay at your house in the storm?
Everything was fine. We had a lot of debris and branches in the yard, but thankfully no damage.
Did you lose electricity?
We lost electricity for a little while, about 10 hours.